I guess we'll do a roll call of the voting members. Jerry?
Here?
Excellent. Chris?
Here?
Susan?
Yes.
Joyce?
Yeah.
Damon is here.
John Ferrara here.
Chuck?
Here.
Janine here.
Alrighty. It looks like we have a few members. Oh, I have to introduce Cindy, and we have a few members of the public. You will be given an opportunity to talk at the end of the meeting after we have established the next meeting date. So, next item on the agenda is to review and approve the July 17th meeting minute notes. Do I have a motion?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
So, next item on the agenda is the formation of a site selection committee for permanent council on aging space. Now, this came out of a discussion that was in other business last time. And so what I'd like to do is talk a little bit about what the role of this committee is, what has been done in the past, and then we can decide how large we think the committee should be, if we should try and include ask other members of the town government if they would like to participate, and how we would like to put it together, having been on a number of different committees of this style in the past. So we have done, these are all documents that I have from past things looking at the Council on Aging. So it has been before the town many times. We have thought about it a lot. But as is often the case, things have changed. I spoke with Tracy Blaze, and what was not something that was discussed a long time ago was the library, and it was not an option because we had received state funding, and so we couldn't change that building, but we have now paid off that state funding, so the library is a viable site. But what I'd like to discuss first is what you guys think the committee should look like, whether we would like to be a large committee or a smaller, 3-person committee, because there are advantages to both. Inclusiveness, to my mind, can be very good, but it also is unwieldy to schedule meetings, and it can be harder to get everyone together and to get on the same page. So I'd like to discuss that element first.
Can I just ask a question?
Yes.
Just for my own clarification and understanding. So we're talking about having a committee for site selection?
Mm-hmm.
Is that within our purview? Can you explain how that works? Because I don't understand. I thought our purview was to say what we might need for space and kind of guide that. I didn't realize we had any insight into.
So we will not make any selection. We don't have that ability, but we can look at options. And so right now the selectmen are focused on some other things, and so since we are the people who are principally concerned with the Council on Aging, we have the most knowledge about it, and any citizen can form an ad hoc committee to do something like this. It doesn't have to be the Council on Aging, my neighbors across the street could decide they want to form a committee to locate this building. Any citizen has the right to do it. And specifically, we have a lot of impetus to do it. So it's well within our purview to form it. And the selectmen could decide that they want to form one, and there could be 2 in parallel. Wouldn't make a lot of sense, but it's possible.
Is it better to have our needs thought of first before we look at site? Because won't that guide that?
We do have, from 2020, a report on the findings in Newbury's senior center space needs. So we have a document that is public from June 15th, 2020 that may have to be updated, but already has some of that background work done. And it's amazing that I could find it because my organization is not that good.
So Damon, is there a timeline that the site inspection suggestions would have to be made by? Because that would help dictate like the size of the committee.
Yes. our lease expires when?
2027.
We are in 2023, so I would.
It's May of 2027.
May of 2027. Again, that is something that we get to decide, but I think given the length of time it sometimes takes our town to respond to needs, the shorter that our committee takes before presenting to the selectmen and hopefully the town, the better. So I would say, ideally, we would select inside of it, or present site options to either the selectmen or town meeting within a year. Yes.
I'm a little confused. Having attended so many select board meetings, I've heard it over and over, that they're the only ones who can form a committee. We can send our suggestions, and even people, we may want some of the people here to be on that committee. But ad hoc, I don't know, I'm confused.
May I?
So, go ahead.
Yes.
Yeah. Having been
No,
on many,
sorry.
many boards and committees, I have found that it's great if you get, say, 2 from the Council on Aging, a couple from the Board of Selectmen, a couple from Planning Board. Get all of the committees together on a committee to study this. You get a lot better input, and the public seems to like it a lot better also if everybody is involved. I brought it up last month just to do this, to get everybody's opinion, get the ideas going, because, yeah, it's
I
4
agree.
years out, but that 4 years is gonna go so fast. And I've seen it, just, you turn around and the time's gone. You know, I'd really like to be ready for that.
Oh, I agree on 100%. We can send a lot of things on, but when it comes to the formal committee, that's the domain, I believe, of the select board.
It is not. And
I'm
well,
confused.
I understand that. So, if we were going to hold a, as we have done in the past, a dance for seniors, we could form a committee for the dance for seniors. This is no different. It is a citizen committee. And anyone can form one and anyone can be on one. It is not a formal committee
It's not
made
a-
by
all
the
right, that-
selectmen. It is an
It's
ad
not a
hoc
formal committee.
committee. Now, the selectmen could say, well, we would like to do this, and we want to make a formal committee. And we could, as I said, we could run in parallel, or ours could be absorbed into theirs. But I feel it is imperative that we move this forward.
Oh, I agree with both of you, totally.
And so, we're gonna start, and, you know, we happen to know some of the selectmen. I think most of us have at least a passing acquaintance with some of them.
I'm passing acquaintance.
And so, we can continue the discussion with them, and, you know, if they are interested in taking that on and saying, well, we want to do a formal committee, we can then decide to dissolve our committee, or, but I think it is, for us right now, starting is the key thing.
I agree.
And so, that's what I would like to start, to set out some parameters for how we would like to work. And, you know, as Chuck said, I think it would be useful to invite participation from other groups. But, as I said, that also makes things more difficult to schedule and manage. So, I think the, you know, setting out the goals and the timeline, and then figuring out how we want to structure our work makes the most sense to me.
Okay, thank you.
Absolutely.
Clarification, are you talking about just forming this ad hoc committee out of members of our Council on Aging group initially? Or are you talking about also bringing in, like offering it out to people from the public who might be interested and want to be on our ad hoc committee? Or
That is what I wanted to discuss
Yep.
with the Council on Aging,
Okay.
because I served on both types of committees, the very narrow, you know, a 3-person committee, which is sort of the minimum you can have, versus committees that were 11 or 12 people. You know, if we ask the planning board to participate and ask the selectmen if they can send a representative. You know, at that point, we're up to at least 6. If we get 2 members of the public, that gets us up to at least 8. You know, we're up to a 9-person committee pretty quickly. So I was not sure what other people's thoughts and feelings were, and so I wanted to bring it forward for discussion. And it may be that everyone decides, well, we would like to see the selectmen do this and we don't want to do it, which is also fine. We don't have to do it right now. It had been brought forward by John for discussion, and so now it is time to discuss. So since it was your idea, what are your...
But my sense goes back to August of 2021, when I wrote the select board and several town members, as well as COA. And the suggestion was that, and the components of that suggestion were the location. Primarily an ideal location that I had selected, and I did a walkabout with Eric Spahn, just because of the architectural aspect. From the report came a picture looking for a remarkably laid out building, and my comments to Eric at the time was that 84 by 87 and all the square footage that implied could be mitigated by about 40% by an addendum to the library, because so many of the spaces incorporated in the drawing from that report already available in the library and quite frankly underutilized. And the synergy of that location, safe parking and plenty of it, outdoor walking. Eric and I walked behind the ball field through all those trails in the attending land that we own, we the town of Newbury own, and its proximity to the Art Center across the street. The location adds so many qualities of synergy, and also the fact that I do a lot of writing, and I spend a lot of time hiding in the corners of that library, and most of the people I see there, other than during the occasional children's group, are elders. They use that facility. I know we lose a lot of them to Newburyport for the simple reason that there are restaurants galore right outside the front door. But there are a large element of folks in our own town library that do participate. So I sent that message out to the entire universe, and the suggestion I made to Bob Connors at the time would like to secure his information chain and his capabilities, and Eric Spahn for his architectural input, along with a couple of selectmen. I made that direct to Jeff at the time because we're neighbors and close friends from field work, and anybody else who we thought should be on it, and then a couple of members at the board level for the COA, and obviously the director. The idea being that we'd start looking at locations and looking at what it takes and what are the needs. To your point, the needs. You need an outdoor space. You need a safe outdoor space for walking. All you have to do is look at the Peter House and how difficult it is for people to get in that building who are walking with aids. The element is you need to have a council on aging where you can step outside to a gazebo, sit in the outdoors, enjoy the outdoors, but also go back in and then have a facility like the library to enjoy all that that offers. And of course events from across the street. My capsule, and I had remarkable responses from everybody, including a few of the town members that I included in the messaging, with personal conversations. It's a place we own, a place we have clear, and Eric's walkabout, and then he wrote me a remarkably thorough report with a new design. It went from X to X minus 44%, and plenty of walking space for trails, even those encumbered that require aids to walk. It's a beautiful piece of property, and all it takes is a little bit of discovery to make it work.
Can I just back up for a second?
Yes.
I think we missed a step. We have people in the audience, and we didn't do introduction of others yet. And it sounds like we're getting into, just more of what the committee may be in terms of the recommendations that John's making. And I don't think we're there yet. We're talking about should we
Yes.
form an ad hoc committee?
Yes.
And then what the ad hoc committee should be responsible for? Is that?
Yes, I think we're not
Okay.
doing site selection here, we're talking about forming the committee and what the
Right.
committee should look like.
Okay.
So, and yes, I didn't introduce everyone who's in the audience. I figured they'd introduce themselves when they came up to speak, if
Okay.
they want to speak at the end.
Okay.
But I can probably do that if that is what
We
that
don't usually
agenda
have an
item
audience, so we
is.
sort of, I
Yes.
think we maybe moved up, but I don't know if we, how
Um,
we usually address that, so.
Yes, I wasn't exactly sure what introduction of others was, so I thought, went back to the town meetings where you have to
Yeah.
introduce people who don't live in town.
Right.
That may speak at the meeting,
Okay. Yeah.
which is why I included Cindy. Everyone else here lives here, so. But, yes, I do think, go ahead.
I was gonna ask John a question. Is there room for things like, activities that would be like maybe pickleball, some of that kind of outside stuff that we're doing elsewhere?
Yeah, there was, we talked about that, before
So I'm
sentence.
gonna stop you.
Good, okay.
To Susan's point, we can't currently, we should not discuss sites right now.
I'm thinking of space needs, not actual sites, but I wondered if,
So I think what we can say is, one of the things we would like in the site,
Right.
which is something we can ask the site committee to look at.
Right.
So those can be in the parameters, but if we
Yeah.
can't, we should not speak to the library or to
Yeah.
the town hall or to any site specifically, because that is not what was on the agenda.
Yeah,
It's-
and your point's well taken. It wasn't my intent to bring a site recommendation, just a history of going back 2 years of the idea of the ad hoc committee was presented because I read the report and basically had the chance to get time with Eric on his busy Boston schedule and walk a specific site. There are other sites to be considered, clearly. And you're right, we need to, what do we need in any of those sites, A, B, or C?
and that, would that be part of what the ad hoc committee would look at? Is to review that, spatial need that you had from
Yes.
2020, and then kind of go from there?
I would think that the most appropriate way for this committee to function would be to review the needs as laid out in 2020, talk with Cindy about potential new development and new needs, so essentially update the needs list, and then seek locations that may function. That would be how, that's the logic in my mind. Start with your needs, update that, and then move to locations.
Excellent, thank you.
And we can, as a committee, discussing the ad hoc committee, we can talk about things that we see as imperative for the committee to look at. You know, one of the things that has been very beneficial, Cindy has said, is the fact that we are in the same building as Town Hall right now. And so there's people who come in for Town Hall functions will often stop in to say hello. And so, you know, that we can decide is something that we would like is a facility that is tied to a different facility that people visit regularly. You know, it doesn't have to be a deciding factor, but that is a benefit, something to weigh in favor. You know, outdoor space available is something that we can say is something we would like, you know, and there are imperative things like parking, ADA access, you know. You can't have a senior center if people can't get into it when they can't walk very well. Having had some struggles walking in the past year, I could say not every building is easy to get into.
Yes, one of the beauties of this is flat floor. No elevators, no stairs, no ramps, straight in. Perfect.
So, I guess the first question that I have, and it seems like everyone is in agreement that we should be working on this and we should try and move this forward at this point. Because there was definitely some skepticism, some hesitation about the idea of an ad hoc committee, so I'd like to take a formal motion to form an ad hoc committee, and so we can get a vote and see to make sure everyone is on board. So if I could get a motion to that effect.
Motion to,
Motion.
second.
You get it?
Wait.
I think
Give me Chris, I heard her
I
first.
think Chris made the motion
Chris
and
made the
John
motion.
made the second.
Okay, and Joyce is seconding too.
Okay, we have a number of seconds. So, is there further discussion before we take a vote on simply the formation of an ad hoc committee? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
All right. So now what I would like to discuss are some of the things that we would like the ad hoc committee to take into consideration. So I've already discussed two of them, the dual use and outdoor space. Are there other things that you guys see imperative to the Council on Aging space that we would want to make sure are highlighted in the charge for this committee?
I really think we need an area where we can all eat together. For example, the reason I'm bringing that up, Cindy's been putting on many events and we have to go down to Pitta Hall. And even at Pitta Hall, there's a parking problem. We have to get permission from the restaurant next door to park there. And if that restaurant wasn't there anymore, there really would be no parking. So we need to have that on site in our own building. A room where there's a kitchen that caterers can work from or the council themselves can work for. And we have to determine the amount of seating we need within that room. Now I know there is one, the room at the library, but we'd have to look at that and see if Cindy thinks that is large enough for what she's going to need for the future. And if the kitchen is good enough, or we have to add that to our own space.
Well, I think, kitchen and dining space
Very
makes a lot of
important,
sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, you've made that point numerous times. It's well noted.
Anything else that jumps out to people as needs? Cindy, you probably have the most experience with the needs of the Council on Aging at this particular juncture in time.
So we have more space now than we did when we were at the school, clearly. But we're still limited to basically 2 rooms. So when we put on any kind of programming, we're limited at the most to 2 things going on at one time. And then there's no more space. So, for example, our exercise classes, we have a yoga class. Having the yoga class in the main room would be fine because there's enough room for that. But people are constantly coming and going. As you mentioned, because we're attached here, people do poke in, which we love. But the point of the yoga class is there's meditation, there's focus, there's calm. We have the phones ringing, people coming and going. It's not conducive to that type of a class. We could certainly move them into the front room, but that room is long and skinny.
Yeah.
It doesn't accommodate the amount of people that we have. If I had 3 people in the class, it'd be fine. But normally we're running around 8 to 10 people, sometimes it's 12. I think we've had as many as 13 or 14 at one point. If people can't participate comfortably in the class, they're not going to come. So the space itself, we're already outgrowing where we are now. So we would love to be able to have I look at a lot of other COA calendars and they have a zillion things on their calendar every day. And they're doing it because they have the ability to put people in different rooms and offer multiple programs at one time. We'd love to be able to get to that point. I can't do it right now. We do go off-site. That involves staff going over to unlock, going back to lock up. It involved pickleball, for example, was going over to set up and then clean up. Pitta Hall is an awesome opportunity for us, but we pack up everything from our salt and pepper shakers to our creamers to the food that we're bringing to decorations to whatever it is we need. Kathy and I are putting everything in our cars, packing up, driving over there, setting up, and then clean up, packing up everything, bring it back, unloading. It's a it's a lot of work to do that, and I'm not complaining about that, I'm happy to put in the work. But if we had our own space, it's time saving to be able to just be in our own space and set up and clean up and move on to the next thing. There's a lot of time wasted in that travel, so to speak. Outdoor space is huge. I can't offer a walking club right now. I'm not comfortable bringing people outside here. I mean, every day I see people whiz over those speed bumps from my office. I see it. It's not people coming here. They're clearly in a rush to get down to the other end of the building. I'm not comfortable having any kind of a walking club here. So again, it would be us taking it on the road. I know the rec committee is talking about having a walking path around the Central Street playing fields. That'd be a great opportunity, but again, we're going somewhere else to put on our programming, so. Office space is perfect where we are downstairs. We all have space where we can privately meet with people. And we have an extra office, so like right now, our Shine counselor is down there meeting with someone. I've had him in periodically to meet with people. I have a volunteer who helps us with different computer-related items, and he can get himself set up in that office and do what he needs to do to help us. So that piece of it is great, but we're lacking the ability to grow even more than we've already grown a lot, and we intend to keep growing, but we're a little bit stifled with where we are now, so.
All right, seeing as we're throwing out our wish list, having spent 4+ decades in EMS, I think we should think about being able to convert the COA into an emergency place for people to stay.
So
You
like
noticed
Peter Hall.
last 2 or 3 weeks, we had 4 tornadoes in one day. When is it gonna be our turn? We have Plum Island, very, very vulnerable to hurricanes, to floods. What are we gonna do with the elderly? I think we should be thinking seriously of bringing folks in, and if we had, as you mentioned, a place to have something to make dinners, you know, just throwing it out there. What do people think, you know?
Warming center, cooling center kind of
Yes.
thing.
Yeah, that's a great
I
idea.
think it's an
Smart
excellent
idea.
idea.
Yeah,
Very smart. Full dining room and full kitchen makes sense. Yeah.
That's one of the reasons I was thinking in the past that maybe we should be considering more of a community center where Council on Aging is the primary user of daytime, if you will, but other community members can use that facility for other things. Especially if we had an area where people could come in and do their cooking and serving or whatever. Scouts could use it for, spaghetti dinners to make fundraisers, or, we could rent it out to people for baby showers or something like that. There's a lack of that in this community.
right, I definitely agree with that, and that was one of my points before. We
Right.
could make money on what we created, and
Correct.
there is no place to
Right.
rent
You know,
for the community.
what you're talking about is what Newburyport has in their community center.
Yes.
It's, if you haven't been there, being in the town of Newbury, I can go to one exercise class,
Yeah,
which I do, but the other 2 I go to are in Newbury, and they have so many, they
right.
have kids' birthday parties, but do we have, we're not a city. I don't know, but it's a great idea.
Yeah, I mean, it's, as with everything, this is the wish list, and then reality will come later, so.
But to Chuck's point, that it's true. Where do our elderly go who don't have air conditioning and it's,
Correct.
the week of 110 degrees and, feeling because of the humidity and stuff? They're out there.
Well, it's been close to 110 a couple times,
Yeah.
and that's the direction things are heading, so.
Yep.
All right, wow.
Just
Couple
like
of
when
lobby.
Plum Island lost their sewer in the Newburyport end, there was no bathrooms.
Right.
So they had to go down to.
Huge.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
a
Yeah, we
huge
could-
necessity.
Are there other needs that people would like included in the charge for this ad hoc committee?
Well, wouldn't part of the charge of the ad hoc committee go through all of the wish list, gathering that all from whatever resources we need to, and then prioritizing them? Also, future needs, I mean, if we're looking at 2027, we need to basically figure out what it is from a growth standpoint, not only for the 2027, but the beyond, because if we do our list now, it's gonna be outdated by the time the new facility is built,
Mm.
so.
My point exactly. Thank you for bringing it up again.
And how about looking at who is using the center, the activities we do, and who isn't, and why not? You know, is there a way to figure out what our usage is and then build off of the reasons that people aren't coming? Why don't some of the elderly participate? I'm just wondering, would that be part of the committee's looking at that so that we can decide whether or not these things that we're wishing for are really necessary?
I'm not sure if that falls to us as a committee, as, you know, the Council on Aging versus the building committee, because I feel like we're asking them to choose a site based on the needs we expect. And if we can say, we expect that more of our elderly will become involved if we have X, you know, that would be something that as a council we can look at, you know, why don't we reach certain people, and do we think we can build something that would make it more accessible? Is it
I'm just thinking of-
location,
yeah.
is it, you know, why don't people come?
I'm just thinking about how we would justify that. Do we really have data that shows they would come if we had X?
Yes, I think that's a different charge, but I'm open to being corrected.
Well, isn't that along the lines of the survey that was recently done, or the idea of putting the flyer into the tax bill so that, you know, we can get more exposure to more people? Cindy's sort of been already working on that, haven't you, Cindy?
I did see a survey that did go out, and people said I would be interested in this and
Yeah.
interested in that.
Yeah.
You would know more about that. And they put down the seniors themselves.
Mhm.
Because one of the things I keep reading about over and over is people have their own opinions and say, oh, it should be here, it should be there, it should be there. And I'm at the senior center. I go there, COA. I take part in their activities. These people, some of them haven't even walked through the door. You
Yeah,
know,
why
and
not?
they're really not used to doing it, but they're gonna tell you where it's gonna be. So I really think this needs to be put out to the people who use it. And Cindy has all that info, you know, and she has the results of surveys. But it would be nice to see that. And as a volunteer, one of the things I know is having things at Peter Hall is a lot of work.
Mm.
It's great, but it's a lot of work.
But it draws the most people when we have those programs.
Yes, it does, because a lot of people whom I know, personally know at the center, come from Plum Island, and they may not have a car, so they might have to rely on someone else.
Mhm.
So I gave one of them, she was over 90, I said, you know what, here's my phone number. You can call me. Has she? No.
But we
she's
also
not.
have the van. People
We
don't
have a
always
van.
take advantage of the van. So we put things out there to people. We can't force them to
Right,
participate. But
That's
we try to do many different things. The people who come to pickleball are not coming to those events at Peter Hall.
correct.
You know, they have a different, and I try to be very open. Kathy and I want feedback. What do you like? What are you looking for? What can we do that will interest you and get you to participate? And the pickleballers are very interested in ping pong, so we're working on that next, because that would be, our pickleball courts are outside, so we can't do that during the winter. I mean, if you're hardcore, you might do it during the winter, but we want to give them another option, and that will keep them engaged with us. So we will go forward and get ping pong tables and figure out a location to do that. But it's feedback from people, and we try to listen and try new things, and sometimes it works and it flourishes, and sometimes it falls flat, but we keep trying and we do new and different things. So I'm happy to do another survey, even informal, you know, of the people who do participate, to let us know what else they want to see. I can put something in writing. It's more or less Kathy and I kind of absorbing the information and putting on new programs from there, but I'm happy to put something in writing. We keep participation numbers for each and every program that we do. That's part of what this volunteer is doing, is making sure everything's in our database system, so. I do have to report numbers, participation numbers every year to the Executive Office of Elder Affairs too, but,
But like you said, Cindy, you're limited on what you can do and how many events you can have
Right.
in one day because of your space. If you had another room and you could have ping pong going and this going there, you could have 4 choices for
Right.
people to come.
and then that gives more engagement of
Yes.
different age groups
Right, 'cause-
at one time, because right now it's kind of segregated,
right.
you know?
One of the things that you and I have discussed regarding the expansion to the mail list to all residences, not just 65 and above. You think about the connection of generations that provides. Everybody's reading the same material. Caregivers within a younger generation who need help, been there, done that. And the element of veterans, all years, all veterans. And we talked about the show up for the veterans group, and were the younger veterans aware of that meeting. I suspect there have been many, many more, but you need a larger facility for that. But it's just,
That could also be a timing thing though too, a lot of those younger vets are still working and I'm having a breakfast or a lunch, that's not conducive to it,
understood,
so.
but the other elements, at least we're educating them, and I think the COA is in a unique position with your mailer, unlike any other aspect of town communication, to really connect generations of all varieties and reach out to caregivers who are in their 30s and 40s and 50s who need help. And they don't have to be aged to come through those doors and ask for help.
The door's open.
Yeah.
So what's the next step here?
So-
Do we decide how many from this group is
That
going to
is-
go? Do we,
So,
how big is this committee gonna be? I mean, legally, I think you can go to 13 on a committee, if I remember correctly, so 2 from every board? Is there gonna be
I think,
more because we're council on aging? I mean, it should be yourself, it should be Cindy, 1 or 2 others, you know, I'm just
Well, that
throwing this
is-
out there
yes.
now. What's next?
so I think we've talked about needs, we can come back to that at the next meeting if people have other ideas. But I think discussing potential members is the next step. And so, to my mind,
Potential boards and members.
well, I think it would be nice to have a member from the building committee, if we could Eric or Bob Connors or someone like that. I think there need to be at least 3 members from the Council on Aging, including Cindy. It'd be nice to have a select person, a person from the planning board, and at least 1 member from the general public. So to me, that's the minimum. But again, I'm open to it being a small committee, or as Chuck said, it could get very large. But I feel like that is, given the time frame we're looking at, becomes unwieldy. So what do other people think about how many members and how large or small it should be?
Well, you just, oh, I'm sorry, you're gonna
I
go
was just gonna
around.
say, Mr. Chairman, are there any other needs that people have before we go on?
Well, it seemed like we'd wrapped up, but I think we
Okay.
can come back to it.
I
At a
don't, I
later
just
time.
didn't know.
Yes. I think this,
I have a question. I keep getting confused between the ad hoc committee and the formal committee. So what are we talking about?
we are talking about an ad hoc committee.
Ad hoc, okay, and that ad hoc committee would include possibly this larger
Yes.
group, body of people?
Yes.
Okay, okay, just wanted to make sure I had that in my head right.
Damon, I have when you're forming an ad hoc committee, can we invite people from formal other town committees to, I'm trying to understand
Yes.
my own.
When I served as a selectman, I also could participate in other committees. So like the Newbury Days Committee, I was allowed to be a part of that. That's an ad hoc committee, it's not formed by the selectmen. So it is, other committees can participate in any committee they want. They can't be at a quorum level, otherwise that violates open meeting law. They would have to
Right.
post it as a meeting. And that's part of why I don't think we should have too many members on our ad hoc committee from this group, because then we would have to post it as a meeting each time we met. I think we should follow open meeting laws with the ad hoc committee regardless. but-
Absolutely, but I'm curious, could they really couldn't speak from their board, could they?
They
I
would
mean-
not, they would be essentially liaisons or citizen participants.
Informational. Or,
Um, they'd be bringing their expertise, so they can be, as an ad hoc committee, they have they're not legally bound, they're not, the other laws that apply to them as a member of the select board all still apply, but they are not acting necessarily as a select board member
Okay, thank
at
you.
that time.
Okay.
For instance, if Leslie or Bill chooses to speak here, they're not charged by the selectmen to be speaking here, they're speaking as citizens
Okay.
at the Council on Aging meeting.
okay, thank
So
you.
it's good to have, to my mind, it's good to have representation from the committees that will be deeply involved in moving this forward if we get to that,
Okay.
if and when we get to that point. But it is not, they would not be there necessarily speaking for the board. But anytime you speak at a committee meeting, sometimes you're speaking as yourself, and sometimes you're speaking as a representative of a board or committee that you serve on. But you had something to say, and then a bunch of people
I'm
had
sorry.
questions.
No, I think you were gonna ask to go around for people's opinion, and that's where you should start and where you, in the end.
Oh, sure, we can go in a circle. So I've laid out what I think is a good mix and a good size for a committee, but what are your thoughts, Jerry?
I like what you laid out as an ad hoc committee and giving us suggestions to go on. And I like finding out the needs, but again, I'm gonna reiterate what I said at the other meeting. To know the needs, you really have to be there, You gotta have input. She's the biggest input, Cindy.
Mhm.
And her team, and I love the fact that that was in the minutes. They're really important, because I've heard a lot of talk about site here and there, but they've never been involved. So, that's all. No, I'm liking hearing what.
Chris?
I think having an ad hoc committee of maybe 6 or 7 people, probably ideal, particularly if you're bringing in folks outside of this room. And then again, the needs definitely have to be revisited as part of that charter in the beginning. And that's about it.
Yeah, sort of what you said, sounds good to me.
I like what you said as far as the people on the committee. As far as the needs, based on what we did prior, I was on the last committee. The needs came about with Cindy when they were actually designing the building. And depending on what spaces are picked, and we would have to be sure at that point that we had a building design, even if it was a rough one, and Cindy to make sure there would be enough room for what we needed.
All right.
I agree, it should be a manageable committee and should have Cindy plus 1 or 2 of us, probably 2. And then we need building committee and planning committee representation. And as you indicated, somebody freelancing from the general public. Be a strong committee, everybody's voice is heard. It would be excellent.
I'm the one who kicked this ball and got it rolling. I'm happy to see it picking up speed. So,
What John said.
All right. So, at this point then, what I would like to do is solicit letters from the general public for someone who's interested in serving on the board, and to continue this discussion at the next meeting where we will have formalized the needs we want everyone to look at and
Yeah.
what we're hoping for from the participation for the ad hoc committee. So we will put it into formal language and put it on the agenda for that
Perfect.
time.
Just one of the, that you said is, it reminded me of when we were building a police station,
Mhm.
and then we were forming a committee, and we didn't have the police chief on
Mhm.
the committee. I think Cindy has to be an integral part of it.
Oh, yes,
Yes, or it is, perfect.
that is.
Okay.
And then we had to add the police chief to it.
Yep. And so, I guess I will make the motion that we solicit a non-council on aging member of the public to join the ad hoc committee and to send us letters with that intent prior to our next meeting. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Can I ask where you want those sent to?
I want them sent to you.
Okay. So that's fine, so just, and you can put this in the minutes, but so everybody knows, my email address would probably be, you can certainly
Yes.
walk in and drop something off, but coa.director@townofnewbury.org is my email address, so please feel free to send it in.
Thank you for that clarification. Those little details sometimes.
Make all the difference.
Yes. Is there anything else any of the council would like to say before we move on to the next agenda item? All right. So the next thing on the agenda is the review of the Council on Aging information flyer to be included in the tax bill. So, take it away.
I put two just rough drafts together. You can certainly pass them around. When I went to speak to Diane Doyle, the town treasurer, she did state that a full page is the easiest way to do this. I know we
Okay.
discussed a half page, but this will be
Either
printed
or
and
or
folded. Either or, one or the
Okay.
other. Or something completely different, it doesn't have to be this. It has to be copied and folded there, where the tax bills are processed. So, and then stuffed into those envelopes. So doing a half page would be, I think, even more labor intensive. So in order for me to get this in the October tax bill, I'd have to have really gotten this to her by really August 1st. She gave me till the beginning of September, but that's like next week. For the February bill, it would be November. For the May bill, it would be March. August would be June. So it's just giving them enough time to print and fold and stuff on site there. It's for 3,400 tax bills that go out at 20 cents per sheet. It's gonna cost me about $680. This, the number I was quoted, just so you know. But I do need to give a little bit of lead time. And it does not need to be that particular design. We can, you know, add or subtract or, you know, rework it all together. It's just trying to touch on what it is that we do so people know. But we can change language or whatever.
I'll wait till everyone has seen it and then we'll open up
Sure.
discussion.
Possible for you to send copies of that to the board?
Absolutely.
Okay, both of them, I mean.
Yep.
Yeah, there's a lot of quality information in both, but one more information than the other.
Yep.
Just a question, are both of these going out?
It'll be one or the other.
One or the other? Because I
Correct.
did look up my tax bill. I couldn't remember if it was small envelope or big, and it's a regular size, so one would be perfect.
It is, the major consideration is the weight.
That's what I'm
If it
considering.
gets over a certain
Yeah.
amount, it creates all kinds of troubles.
So I'm thinking with this as the tax bill,
Mhm.
and just one probably would be, yeah, the best.
So we need to look at these two pieces of paper and decide which one we want to include,
Well,
or have we already decided that?
essentially, no, we have not decided.
Okay,
So what I wanted is Cindy put this together.
yeah.
We're a little behind schedule for the next bill, so if we want to try and get this in, we have till September 1st, you said?
if I get, yes,
approval for one of these.
right.
Um,
But I would probably say we should gear towards the February bill.
And so what I wanted to discuss right now was what people think of these as something we would include, because we decided that this was a good way to reach our residents.
Well, I need more time to read it and process it.
Yep.
Okay,
So I thought also we were gonna try to get people to sign up for the newsletter. Basically, we have just a call us.
I can
Response.
certainly add stuff like that to this. This is just, it's a very rough draft, so if there are things like that that I missed, we can certainly put them on there.
well, since,
Yeah, I can't
Yeah.
really comment on it.
Okay. well, so now that everyone's had a chance to look at the two drafts, is there feedback for how to improve it moving forward, or do we want to mostly table this for the next meeting, since Cindy feels like it would be better served by waiting till the February bill?
I vote for patience. We haven't had a chance to really study those.
Yeah.
Okay,
Just if Cindy sends them out, we can all read them more thoroughly.
sounds good.
And then if you want to all give me feedback on what
Yeah.
you think is missing, or if there's too much, then I can make some updated changes and send it out before the next meeting.
Okay.
Just personally, without having read the content, I like the idea of the one that's a little more graphic,
Mhm.
because it's eye-catching
Yeah.
and people tend to throw stuff
Yeah,
away if
right.
it's just print, like
Yeah.
more stuff to read from the town,
Right.
recycle. So if it's an eye-catching thing with
Color
maybe
and,
less information, but perhaps more references, reference to the website or
The newsletter.
someplace, somebody who really is interested, then they can go and look on a website that would give them a lot more information.
I think we remember 80% of what we see and 20% of what we hear and read.
It's the whole
Yeah,
less is more
Yep.
concept.
You're right.
Yes, yeah, I agree.
Good point.
All right, so I move to table the discussion of the tax flyer until our next meeting.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Did we do the minutes?
We did.
Yes.
So, I do not have, we're moving on to the chairperson's report. I've had some meetings in preparation for some of the discussions today, including with Tracy Blaze. But it has been a very busy summer for me, and I have not, beyond those meetings prepping for today, I've not got a lot to report. So I'm gonna turn it over to
I
the
think
director.
that's a lot.
I just have one question, Cindy, and can you send us that 2020 survey results report?
I believe that's on our website, but I'll double check.
Oh, okay, all right.
Cindy, would you be able to send some of that information to the select board as well, so we can familiarize ourselves with it? Thank you.
It's on the website. It's already on the website. Listen.
And
Okay.
now the director's report.
So, upcoming programs that we have, or let me just review, last week we did a 50s themed sock hop barbecue over at Peter Hall. It was pretty well attended, we had about 35 people come, and I think people had a good time. There was live music, which was a little bit of a struggle, live and learn with that. They really want to talk and interact with each other, not have a live musician who is overly, and with the design of that room is
Yeah.
another, the acoustics in there, it makes it even louder. So there was a little bit of difficulty with people being able to just sit and chat, even with someone as close as this, it was a challenge. So more background music was the feedback that we got on when we have live musicians. But it was really well attended and people had a good time. So that was our biggest event this past week. Tomorrow evening, we have game night, which is a regular once-a-month occurrence for us. We normally serve dinner. This one, we're just doing desserts only, and we put that in the newsletter to let people know.
What time is that?
That is at 4 o'clock. So we've ordered pies and different things so eat first is what I'm telling you, or skip dinner and just come for desserts. When we have our game night in September, we'll go back to having dinner and dessert. Traveling chef this month is on Tuesday, September 5th, which is next Tuesday. We are going back to Coffee with a Cop for this month, or for September. That is on, I have two the same date, Tuesday, September 12th. I just want to double check the dates to make sure I'm giving accurate information. Tuesday, September 12th. The watercolor class is Wednesday, September 13th. We have a tech class. This is new for us. So we've had people asking us for some kind of a program on how to use their devices. So this gentleman that we're working with goes to several different councils on aging and gives, right now we're doing a back to basics class, how to use your iPhone, how to use your iPad, things like that. We'll see how this class goes, get feedback from folks, see what they would like to have in terms of that type of a class, and see how it goes, and if people are interested, we'll continue to offer a tech class. We, right now, are referring people to the library. They have someone come into the library once a month for an hour and a half or a couple of hours and can help people with specific issues that they're having. You know, my printer won't print, I can't do this, whatever, and he can kind of troubleshoot for them. This will be a way to help people learn it so they don't necessarily need to go to get the troubleshooting help. We have scheduled a presentation with the Clutter Queen, who is coming in September. We're going to serve a light dinner first, and then she'll do her presentation. That's on Tuesday, September 19th. She is going to talk to us about the gentle art of Swedish death cleaning. So it's about clearing out the clutter from your home. So you're not leaving that for the next generation. It's very difficult when you're going through the grieving process, and then you have to deal with all of the stuff. And whether or not, I read this book, The Gentle Art of Swedish Death Cleaning, so whether or not do I keep this, was this my mother's favorite lamp, is this important? Different ways for you to learn how to donate, give away things, declutter your life. So it's not just about the next generation, but also helping you live a better life right now, so you're not completely inundated with stuff.
What time is that,
What
Cindy?
time is that yet?
The dinner will serve at 4:30 and the presentation is at 5:30.
And what time is Coffee with the Cop?
That is at 10 a.m. over at the Council on Aging. Sometimes we go on the road to the police station, but they're back with us.
Any thought of maybe, as we spoke of earlier, to invite Allison to that, to ask the question, whomever the police officer is, just to say, are there caregivers in the audience?
I can reach out to her.
And if they're willing to ask that question, then she's there to answer any help that she might provide.
So we did offer a caregiver support group and
Yeah.
not one person.
I know, but if you
Yeah.
insert her in, you'll get a dozen people to see the cops, and there's a chance, and I guarantee you,
Someone in there. Yeah, you're
there's
right.
a caregiver there. If nothing else, I'll raise my hand, and she knows my circumstance intimately well.
Who's Allison?
She's a linchpin over at Avita in Newburyport,
Okay.
social.
So we had worked.
Masterpiece.
Yeah, we had worked with her to
Great facility.
do a
Outstanding.
offer support group for caregivers.
Yeah.
Pickleball courts have been painted last week, was very exciting.
Oh, that's
So
nice.
over at the Central Street basketball courts, we were using painter's tape to paint the courts, the 3 courts on there, every Tuesday and Thursday. So myself and a gentleman from the rec committee, John Regan, we scrubbed the courts to get rid of all that residue, and they painted the courts on Thursday afternoon, which was a beautiful day, and then it rained a lot over the weekend. But I saw the caution tape is still up there now. The paint itself was going to dry within a couple of hours, but it needed to be cured. So that's why we kept the caution tape up over the weekend, so hopefully no one went on there. Hopefully there's no paw prints or anything across the court or sneaker marks, but
Who did you have to appeal to get that done?
the rec committee, I worked with them.
Good,
Yeah.
good for you.
So, but the pickleball courts are not just for seniors in town, it's for any and everybody. So a lot of people own their own nets. What Kathy and I talked about was we will get a couple of nets and paddle and ball sets and have them at the Council on Aging. People can sign them out over the weekend, kind of like the library. I believe the library itself has a set. So we will have our scheduled pickleball that we, set up, but if someone just wants to go and use it, as long as no one else is on the court, those courts are really first come, first served. You certainly can reserve the courts through the rec committee at a cost, but then you know that the court is yours. Or you just go and you
Risky.
risk it and have a good time. But having the lines already on there is going to make a world of difference, because people can just show up with their nets and their paddles and play and not have to worry. As I mentioned, we're working on a plan for ping pong. So I will hopefully have more information about that in the next couple of meetings. Council on Aging is closed on Monday, September 4th. All of Town Hall is closed because of Labor Day. Our next newsletter is an October-November newsletter. We're sending that to the printer in mid-September. As always, we're in need of NEAT drivers. We're always recruiting for the NEAT program. We are also in need, well, we are not, but the chocolate tour, the annual chocolate tour in Newburyport, the Newbury Council on Aging, 3 other councils on aging, and then other nonprofits in the area are beneficiaries of the annual chocolate tour. So there are something like 30 different locations people can go. You buy tickets, you try chocolates all throughout the city. For the past 2 years, we've been given a check for $2,000.
Wow.
And they request that we use that money for medical transportation. So in addition to the NEAT program, which is all volunteer drivers, in addition to the van, which has limited availability, we offer options for people to take a taxi. Should those options run out, they don't have anyone else to get them somewhere, we do not want someone to cancel a medical appointment, we will use this funding to get a taxi for you to get you to your appointment. So they are in need of volunteers. I put a little something in my newsletter last month. I have a flyer downstairs in the Council on Aging bulletin board too, but if anyone's interested in that, give us a call, we can direct you where to go. The other place that is in need of volunteers, last year we did a first time tax aid day here in Newbury. So AARP has a tax aid program. Again, it's all volunteer. We were sending people to Newburyport, to Georgetown, to other area COAs to have their taxes done. It has to be a simple tax return. You can't own 5 properties and have your own business, and it's a very simple tax return. But I reached out to them and said, is there any way you could come here? It's a process to become a site, but what they decided to do was a 1-day event where they gave us 15 slots, and they had 4 tax preparers. We had different appointments. People would come in with all of their documentation, sit with the tax preparer. They would do their taxes, review it, send it off, send you back with all of your documentation. I think I used 12 of the 15 spots. So for the first time, it was pretty popular. But I'm hoping to do it again this year. They might tweak it a little bit in the sense of it'll be a drop-off instead of you sitting there waiting for your taxes to be done. But it's all going to be dependent on their volunteers. It's always a struggle, but they have a lot of different options. It's not just tax preparers, it's administrative stuff, all kinds of different things. So again, if anyone has questions, I do have a flyer up on the bulletin board, but I'm happy to direct you to the person that is looking for assistance. It's a worthy cause. It helps a lot of people. And then the last thing I wanted to mention was on the AgeSpan site. AgeSpan is the local aging services access point for us. It used to be formerly known as Elder Services in Merrimack Valley and North Shore. So we at the Council on Aging have an employee who is our Meals on Wheels driver. A lot of councils on aging, their Meals on Wheels driver is a volunteer position. We paid for that position. And one of the recipients of Meals on Wheels made it a point to call AgeSpan to let them know, and I quote you from this article, Meals on Wheels saved my life. She had a medical event at home. The Meals on Wheels is just one touch of a person during a day, right? So I'm dropping off your meal, I'm making eye contact with you. If something's off, I'm gonna call the Council on Aging, I'm gonna call AgeSpan. We're gonna get people involved. This woman did not answer the door, and the Meals on Wheels drivers are trained by AgeSpan, but also by us at the Council on Aging. If someone doesn't answer the door, let us know, call AgeSpan, we wanna make sure nothing's going on. She called AgeSpan, she had a medical event, they called 911. And she went and had heart surgery, and now she's back home. But she made it a point to call, and called out Emily Lampert, who is our Meals on Wheels driver, so I just wanted to shine a light on her. She's awesome, she's very dedicated. She really gets to know the 12 to 14 people that are on her route every day, and she's a huge part of our team, and we appreciate her.
Wow,
That's
Good
awesome.
on her.
That's awesome, it's very.
that's what it's all about.
That's right.
Nice.
Did Mr. Rogers write that one up for the newspaper?
It was on the Age Span websites.
That
Is
would have
that-
been worthy news for the
Yeah.
Well,
boys.
I will say he probably didn't know. I can reach out to him.
Yeah.
But
Send it along.
That ought to be a front page, top right side.
Well, it's good to have good news.
Yes, it
It's
is.
always nice to have good news. Is there new business that anyone would like to discuss?
Car show,
Mhm.
Friday, September 8th, 3 to dusk. There will be ice cream, hamburgers, hot dogs, stuff like that.
What's the site?
Byfield Center, we shut the center down, we're
Okay.
back there again, yay.
Well done.
No,
From just a little beyond Lund Street
Okay.
and down to the center, it'll be closed off.
Post office let us park there?
yes,
Okay. Well, that's good for you.
yeah, after business hours.
After
Yeah,
business.
they're open till 5, and then after that, then we fill that up. Hope to see you all there.
Good for you.
Anyone else?
One quickie, I had a chance, and I don't know if the lawyers will let us do this, is that one of my daughter's closest friends is companion to Graham McKay over at Lowell Boathouse. And as far as in another aspect of what we offer would be a remarkable institution over there. They've got kids from Triton, from Governors, from soon the Round School, I think, for curriculum. And think about all of the men and women who would love to get into the world of forming beautiful things of wood. And Graham runs a heck of a store, but there is the extraordinary liability that goes with fast-moving 10-inch saw. So how we do that? And I'm asking him to look into it and see whether his board would allow it. It's something I do, and it's something I think others would enjoy. And boy, if you ever take a walk through that institution, the things they create there are breathtaking, absolutely breathtaking. And the kids from Governors, we pushed a program that not all children are born, with the ability to play hockey and baseball, but they might be wonderful artists or equestrians. And now Governors expanded and allowed kids after school to go to both of those. And Lowell Boathouse is where they send them.
Anyone can lose their thumb to a machine.
That's a huge, for sure.
it might be a matter of a waiver. We have waivers for a lot of things.
Other new business? All right. When would you like to hold our next meeting?
The 18th, third Monday of the month.
Sounds good. So I move that we have our next meeting, September 18th at 9 a.m.
18th?
18th.
Okay.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor? All right. And now, since there is public here, I'd like to invite anyone who would like to address the board to come up to the microphone, identify yourself, and then give your comments. Please address your comments to me, and we will take them under consideration. Again, it's open meeting rules apply, so we may not be able to respond to whatever you say. But if you would like to say anything, please come forward and address the board. Go right ahead, Kelsey.
I've been sitting too long.
I know the feeling.
Leslie Matthews, 111 Main Street. I just want to clarify that you were able to get permission for any of the elected board members to participate on the committee that you're planning on putting together, because it's been distinguished recently that elected officials cannot participate on other different boards or committees. So I just wanted to have clarification on that.
I will double check with town council, but I believe on an ad hoc committee, anyone can serve. That was my understanding, but I will return to it again because things change all the time and I could certainly be wrong.
Absolutely, because, you know, I think there are plenty of people out there that would definitely be, you know, on the other boards that would be interested in participating in that.
Yep.
To just, there's a lot of people out here that are really interested on what's happening with the COA. And they want to see you guys to get a permanent home. So before we trip over the wire, I just wanted to make sure that that was all set.
Thank you for your concern. I will make sure that is taken care of.
Thank you.
Bill DeMayo, 12 Orchard Street, speaking as a citizen and a former member of this board in three different capacities. I like the idea of your ad hoc committee. I like the idea, Mr. Chair, that you went back to the space needs study that was done a while ago. If you look on the Council on Aging website, you'll find that study is listed and you can access it there. You didn't have to rummage through your records to find it, okay? And I think that you're absolutely correct to say let's update that and refresh that. I think you tried to do that in real time today, but it's probably something you should do as a committee rather than a board meeting perhaps, but you got a lot of good ideas from it. We did indeed, not too long ago, discuss at this very board, the new members weren't there, but we looked at the results of that survey that was done years back, and we talked about, we matched it up with the activities that Cindy has, and it's remarkable that the activities that were listed as the most important ones to people Cindy is essentially doing. The participation could be different. It didn't represent the number of people. If 40 people said they'd like to exercise, 40 people aren't exercising. That's my point. Okay. I'm going to suggest that you think about, you might consider telling the select board about forming an ad hoc committee and your intention. And the given, there's two givens. 2027 is going to happen, okay? And the aging process is going to continue. So I like the idea of looking at the aging, what the effect of aging on the population in Newbury has to the needs of the Council on Aging. That's pretty much what I needed to say.
Thank you, Bill.
Hi, I'm Kristen Grubbs. I work as assistant planner for the town, and I started in February, so have been going around attending different committee meetings, introducing myself, listening to the great work that all the volunteers and fellow staff are doing. My office is on the first floor behind the town clerk. I share a wall with the COA, and I'm very familiar with some of the programming that seeps under the cracks of the door, and it's all awesome. I've worked in planning in the region for a while. I worked in Ipswich where there's a really awesome COA program, and just, you know, some of the projects we're working on, master planning, facilities planning, program planning. I'm just really glad to be working in the town that I also live in, you know, thinking about our aging population, thinking about ways that the planning office can just add some increased capacity to the work the town is doing on all these issues. Martha, I know you all know well, has been working pretty solo along with lots of volunteer support, but in terms of staff, and I've known her for a long time and just really appreciate sort of being in a position to add some capacity to all the good work that lies ahead. So just really enjoyed the conversation today and super interested in providing whatever support we can from the planning office. So thank you.
Thank you for being here. All right. Everyone having had an opportunity to speak, I think I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
So moved.
All those in favor?
Uh,
Aye.